Is Korea a collectivist or individualistic society? How can two seemingly opposite values, collectivism and individualism, coexist within the same society? Do they balance each other or do they clash? And more importantly, how does this affect society? As a Swiss who grew up in Switzerland, arguably one of the world's most individualistic societies out there, I initially saw Korea as intensely collectivist. The shared meals, the school clubs, the deep rooted respect for hierarchy and social cohesion all pointed to a culture built around the group. But then I heard something that changed my perspective. A friend of mine, also a foreigner, said, Korea is the loneliest place I've ever lived. And they weren't the only one. Many people I know agree with this, and some even call Korea a introvert's paradise. So I started asking myself, which statements is true? Are we just projecting our own cultural expectations onto a place we don't fully understand? Or is it that Korea truly holds two opposing forces, collectivism and individualism, at the same time? And how did it get to this point? To answer this, we need to explore the philosophical and historical foundations of Korean society, starting with Confucianism. Anyone familiar with Korean culture must have heard about Confucianism at least once. But Confucianism is more than just a historical influence. It's one of the most enduring pillars of Korean society. At its core, Confucianism emphasizes clearly defined roles and responsibilities. It encourages individuals to subordinate personal feelings to the expectations tied to their roles. You're not just a person, you're a student, a daughter, a citizen. These roles come with responsibilities. You're expected to act not based on your personal desires, but based on what your role demands. This framework fosters social harmony and stability, but also places significant constraints on personal expression and individuality, as hierarchy and group conformity are not just values, but social expectations. Then came a powerful socio-political force, nationalism. We are not in ancient Korean anymore, we are in the 1970s, particularly under the rule of President, some might say dictator, Park Chung-hee. After the Korean War, South Korea was economically devastated and politically fragile. But Park's authoritarian regime pursued an aggressive campaign of industrialization and modernization, rallying the country around the collective goal of national recovery. Now, this didn't simply happen out of desire to build a better developed nation. It was a matter of survival so that the North could stop being a threat to the South. As it's clearly more difficult to conquer a developed nation ready to fight and protect itself, rather than a poor, defenseless one. Therefore, citizens were encouraged, sometimes coerced, to once again sacrifice individual desires, but this time for the good of the nation. Education, work, and even appearance, like the regulation of long hair or miniskirts, were tightly controlled to promote discipline and productivity. The family unit was reinforced as the foundation of social morality, and obedience to authority was essential, meaning this era once again deeply reinforced collectivist values as the success of the group, company, nation, family was prioritized over the success of the individual. Together, these forces shaped a society deeply oriented around the collective. The needs of the nation, the family, and the group were placed above those of the individual. But at the same time, because this transformation was intentionally based on Western standards, it brought in a whole new set of values into society, such as capitalism, liberalism, and democracy. But democracy in Korea wasn't introduced slowly and naturally. It was forced to fit into a society that wasn't quite ready for it. After decades of military rule, the democratic transition in the late 1980s came fast, following mass protests and public pressure. And suddenly, people had the right to vote, speak freely, and challenge authority. But the mindset shaped by years of hierarchy and obedience didn't disappear overnight. So while the system became democratic on paper, everyday life still followed old patterns. People were expected to think independently, but still act according to social rank. This gap between political freedom and cultural behavior added even more tension to a society already torn between tradition and modern ideals. One could then argue that these imported ideals, instead of neatly replacing the old ones, they collided with them. As a result, modern South Korea finds itself suspended between two value systems that are often in tension. On one hand, the older generation and most institutions still operate under collectivist hierarchical assumptions. On the other, younger Koreans are increasingly exposed to and influenced by individualist ideals through media, education, and global culture. Western ideals such as individualism and liberalism place strong emphasis on personal growth, freedom of choice, and the pursuit of individual desires, often regardless of societal expectations. Therefore, these ideals seem to stand in direct opposition to traditional Korean values centered on community, hierarchy, and conformity. So, how then were they absorbed into Korean society? This collision creates a profound sense of alienation, especially for young individuals who are expected to conform and not stand out, yet simultaneously express themselves, chase personal dreams. The pressure to fulfill both sets of expectations is intense and can lead to mental health struggles, such as anxiety and loneliness. Social comparison and rigid success metrics coexist with messages of self-empowerment and personal freedom, resulting in confusion and internal conflict, especially among the youth. If I wanted to copy a popular YouTube video, I could simply say that Korea has selectively adopted the worst of both systems. From collectivism, social pressure, rigid conformity, and shame. From individualism, emotional isolation, intense self-responsibility, and a crushing sense of personal failure. According to this view, the balance has failed, and the result is a society weighed down by contradictions. This is a popular take, an easy one, but I don't believe that tells the full story. What makes Korea fascinating, and in many ways admirable, is its ability to embody both collectivist and individualist elements simultaneously, without collapsing under their tension. Korean society has developed a unique way of sustaining social harmony and cohesion, even while encouraging vibrant self-expression, innovation, and personal style. From the K-pop industry to underground culture, South Korea has become one of the most expressive and creatively vibrant societies in the world, often surpassing countries typically seen as more open or liberal when it comes to self-expression. In this sense, modernization did not necessarily lead to alienation. On the contrary, it may have provided the conditions for Korea to thrive at both ends of the spectrum. It offered the space for personal ambition and creativity to flourish within a culture still grounded in mutual respect and shared values. Instead of viewing collectivism and individualism as mutually exclusive, perhaps Korea is showing the world what it means to hold both at once. And this actually makes a lot of sense when we consider that the foundation of Korean culture isn't built on just Confucianism or nationalism, but also on Taoism. I obviously can't explain all of Taoism in under a minute, but its core idea is simple yet powerful: coexistence. It teaches that opposites aren't meant to be separated or ranked. They exist in relation to one another. Opposites are not enemies, they're part of a greater whole. Light needs darkness. Motion needs stillness. There's no need to force things into binary categories, because everything flows into everything else. And maybe that's exactly what makes Korea so unique: its ability to hold contradictions, to merge opposites, and to create something coherent, not through uniformity, but through context and balance. In conclusion, South Korea cannot be simply labeled as collectivist or individualist, in the same way as it cannot be simply labeled as modern or traditional, Western or non-Western, and so on. It's a dynamic, evolving society where opposing systems coexist, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in conflict. Understanding this paradox is key to grasping the unique challenges Koreans face today. But it's also the key to appreciating a country that has shown the world something remarkable. By embracing contradiction, Korea is not struggling, It's setting a new standard for what a modern nation can be.